Is there not something absolutely absurd, nay, loathsome, in belonging to a species which entertains itself with acting and with actors? Who need be exactly what sorts of persons? Pray tell. Deception exists throughout the animal and even the vegetable worlds, needless to say, but there it always serves a purpose, that the actor might become a more effective or virulent predator, or, in prey creatures, be more likely to escape and live another day. In men, one shudders. It is all so terribly unseemly, this vapid, unseemly need to be entertained, to have one's existential anxieties be put on display, encountered, and presumably soothed in the process. In the process of what? What, in heaven's name, is going on here? And the actors themselves? Good God, these empty, strutting peacocks, and the more empty, the more well compensated and celebrated, that we all wish, desperately, violently, to escape from ourselves is not news. Only hypocrites and the self-deluded assert otherwise. But to claim one has entered into the heart and soul of another, in life or on stage, is the purest, most naked vanity, a proclamation of the most loathsome arrogance. The actor claims to love the role, but it is only that part of himself which he finds in it which he loves. He protests in this manner only in order to soothe himself, in hopes he might more successfully ignore the black abyss hovering just behind him, which every step he takes, word he utters, and role he plays is an effort to outpace. He can, and most likely will protest this sort of nonsense to his dying day. There is no point in putting spectacles on a blind man who is raving rapturously about all the colours he sees and how deeply they move him. Only a sadist would take pains to convince him otherwise, for, if successful, he would, indeed, soon manage to see quite well enough to find the nearest cliff and skip off it gingerly. And it is hardly only from others that we are so hopelessly estranged. We abandon an infinity of selves in the course of a single day, or, if you prefer, are abandoned by them. There is, of course, that ancient tired truism about stepping in rivers, at which one winces. We cannot tread apace without leaving the man a step behind in some nebulous ether, and yet we routinely attempt to reclaim him by fastening one distorted memory of ourself atop another, which then retreats through countless memories, tumbrils of other selves, all of which flee through untold mirrored funhouses and echo chambers, none of which faithfully restate the voice or sense of its predecessor. The irony of these actors claiming to be one sort of self inhabiting, co-opting, and becoming another is particularly arrogant. It takes place, as a rule, in the most hopelessly insipid and vacuous of selves, in these actors, who are so relentless in their pursuit of persons, situations, and activities which might serve to distract them from what they know, in spite of their hand-wringing and pretences to be the case. It is an insidious revelation, the plague of every honest man brave enough to tune out the constant bombardment of his senses with this or that nonsense or nonsensical person, all vying for his attention, and to address himself to the boredom, blankness, emptiness, and nullity which lives in him, which he fundamentally is, and which existence itself is. Every great thinker has said as much. Life is a bad thing, an awful thing, an appalling mistake, an epiphany which can inspire, in a generous person, a modicum of patience and forbearance for this parade of imbeciles, all so intent on being entertained or entertaining others, this delirious kaleidoscope of nitwits and chattering baboons, their eyes saturated with countless spectacles of ludicrous, trivial images, their minds assaulted with empty, asinine prattle, their hearts assuaged with cynical, manipulative lie after lie after lie. This log flume ride of squealing imbeciles careening through time, each momentary self shitting out the previous, jettisoning it into a bubble of space-time where it immediately expires, like some hapless, wretched astronaut accidentally ejected from his ship, whose primary life support system has gone dark, and who then sputters about helplessly for a moment before being engulfed in an oblivion in which he survives only as a picture, a mannequin upon whom the current imbecile, who he was only a moment before, can now project the fiction that they are somehow the same. This laughable bit of metaphysical chicanery is achieved through what the current blockhead terms his memory, a fantastical tale he concocts and tells himself in an effort to tamp down the terror of what some large part of him knows full well is the actual case, that each moment experienced by what he terms his self is no more real than a fast disintegrating frame of a cheap, generic 35mm flick, each frame, each successive moron, hopelessly detached from the next by an unbridgeable existential chasm. Phantoms chasing phantoms, fleeing from other phantoms being chased by, and so it goes, this preposterous carousel on which we find ourselves, which we call our lives, of which we ever more frantically attempt to make sense as its close draws near, all of us fools, you and I, so constantly on our self-serving, cowardly errands. We are willing to admit, or at least some of us are, the impossibility of constructing a plausible, meaningful picture of the dead, that it is necessarily a vain, hopeless struggle. Yet it is no less futile attempting to construct a plausible account of one's self. It is just as absurd, insubstantial, and maddening, and necessarily far less feasible, accurate, and satisfying than constructing a picture of, say, a well-crafted character in a fine novel. We write and read such things. We clutch at such stories for one reason only: to turn away from the chaos which assaults us everywhere in life, within us, in our rotting viscera, out there, in others, in the ghastly, appalling world, in every utterance, feeling, opinion, and excretion. If this array of selves, which succeed each other like the cards in a quickly shuffled deck, were to go on for decades past the usual span of human life, much less were that self to find itself immortal, life would then become a thing of inexhaustible rather than finite horror. We are all already attempting to escape it, violently, and with the greatest perseverance, at 20. At 120, we would all be that Spartan slave, the one who suffocated himself in the toilet, and about whom Seneca remarked, "Life itself is slavery when one lacks the courage to die." What remains? What can be said to be real? Stories of lives, of our lives, beauty, memories? Only grief is real. Only grief cuts through these frozen, entombed bubbles of time and of space, freestanding, self-contained, and hopelessly marooned in their utter isolation. Only grief so faithfully and inevitably penetrates and pierces through them and maintains its identity through time, through life, through death, until the universe either snuffs itself out in a whisper of stillness or rewinds to a fiery, violent end. Until that time, there is and will be only and ever grief.